Donald Trump confirms the current Bitcoin price rally and congratulates all Bitcoin holders on the all-time high in US dollars. Even though Bitcoin has dipped a bit again, we still see a massive Bitcoin rally over the past year, and Donald Trump is signaling that the Bitcoin price is very, very important to him. And many believe that if he becomes the new president, at least officially, he will massively pump up the Bitcoin price. Because we now have exactly 28 days until Donald Trump officially takes office as US president. And this could already be the biggest Bitcoin event of 2025, and the expectations are sky high. We also see that Donald Trump has now nominated 2 new players for his team. Once he nominated a new economic advisor who is also a pro-Bitcoin person, meaning he is heavily committed to Bitcoin. Secondly, another Bitcoiner is added to their crypto advisory team. This means that Donald Trump's current team is getting bigger and bigger, filling up with all sorts of Bitcoin maxis, Bitcoin freaks, or Bitcoin supporters. Not everyone is a Bitcoin maxi, but at least all of them hold Bitcoin and support it. And now, check out what Donald Trump has to say to the entire Bitcoin community.
Bitcoin surges to an all-time record high, about 108,000. Congratulations to the graduates.
Well, sometimes I really think that we live in some kind of matrix. Olaf Scholz, US dollar high. Trump. Olaf Scholz or someone like that just chilling, standing up and saying, hey folks, congratulations, we've just hit a new all-time high in US dollars. That's what Donald Trump is saying here, and you can see that Bitcoin crypto and the whole story are important to him. It's still unclear whether he's serious about this or if he's just putting on a show, but with how often he mentions Bitcoin in his speeches and how the topic keeps heating up, I can hardly imagine that he's completely ignoring it. Whether he goes all in and actually builds a massive Bitcoin strategy reserve, scaling it up to 1 million Bitcoins remains to be seen, but one thing's for sure, he will definitely position himself well, and it looks like he might actually drive the Bitcoin price even higher. And Donald Trump is really one of those people. Whether he goes all in and actually builds a massive Bitcoin strategy reserve, scaling it up to 1 million Bitcoins remains to be seen, but he will definitely position himself well, and it looks like he might actually drive the Bitcoin price even higher. And Donald Trump is really one of those people. One of the few people left who might still be able to move the Bitcoin price. Elon Musk is having a hard time keeping up with it all. He used to throw out some comments about Bitcoin just for fun a couple of years ago, and back then it actually moved the Bitcoin price. But these days, not so much. He used to throw out a few comments about Bitcoin just for fun every now and then. 2 or 3 years ago, it still moved the Bitcoin price, but now it doesn't anymore. But if Donald Trump makes statements like a Bitcoin reserve strategy and maybe even signs an executive order on Inauguration Day, which is in 28 days, to create a Bitcoin strategy reserve, then he will definitely pump the Bitcoin price up. This means for all investors, for all Bitcoin holders, for all traders, whatever you are, you've got 28 days left to potentially front-run the USA. In 28 days, a new era could begin in the Bitcoin space, specifically before the Bitcoin reserve strategy or after. So, for all investors, all Bitcoin holders, all traders, whatever you are, you've got 28 days left to potentially front-run the USA. In 28 days, a new era could also begin in the Bitcoin space, specifically before the 1,000 or after the Bitcoin reserve strategy. It doesn't mean that the reserve strategy will automatically come on the 28th. But the probability of it happening is not 0 if you ask me. I'm still kind of skeptical. I don't know, my gut feeling just tells me it won't happen to the extent that a lot of people are imagining, not in such a drastic way. But I'm totally open to being pleasantly surprised, and I'll take in everything Donald Trump does regarding the escalation or pumping of the Bitcoin price. And then we have the next crazy story. Donald Trump nominates Bitcoin advocate Stephen Miron as the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. And Stephen Miron is also a huge Bitcoin advocate. E.G. He says here that cryptocurrencies will play a big role during an economic boom under the Trump administration, according to Stephen Miron. And we see it. We have Ramaswamy, we have JFK, we have Elon Musk, we have Howard Lutnick. You can go through the whole list. The SEC chair, the Treasury Secretary in the USA. I think there's almost no major official position left where there isn't a massive Bitcoin bull involved. And that already shows that Donald Trump is serious about this. And that's basically the game theory at play, which will eventually happen, maybe even on a corporate level at various levels. Sooner or later, anyone who isn't a Bitcoiner will be kind of excluded from the system, either because they're too inefficient or just because they don't fit in anymore. Because then we'll have Bitcoin companies, we'll have Bitcoin countries, we'll have Bitcoin families, Bitcoin friend circles, whatever. That's really far-fetched, like way out there. But if we move more towards a Bitcoin standard, you could eventually be seen as an outsider. If you're not for Bitcoin in the USA. Here in Donald Trump's team, it's almost like you're an outsider if you're not for Bitcoin, and you're just a follower if you are for Bitcoin. This means that the default status here in the Trump team is already pro-Bitcoin. So, if you're not pro-Bitcoin, then you can't even get into Donald Trump's team. At least that's how it looks right now. And it will definitely have a massive impact on politics in the USA and also on the Bitcoin price. A lot of people speculate that Donald Trump doesn't have that much influence, but the advisory team, the people around him, and the whole setup is just so ultra epic that it's almost hard to imagine. Stephen Miron assumes that there will be a massive economic boom here too, and that Bitcoin will play an essential part. I'm almost certain now that if the USA doesn't go all in on Bitcoin and maybe even ride the momentum, share the narrative with the people, and bring some hope back to the country, like what's happening in El Salvador or something, if they don't tackle this head-on, then the USA is going to run into some serious problems. We're really on the brink of a depression, a downturn, an economic crisis, because there are so many signs that this is coming to the USA soon. And then we need some kind of beacon of hope. Bitcoin has to radically change something here. You saw it in Argentina. There was a bit of a boost with a radical change, and something similar could actually happen here with Donald Trump and Bitcoin. And it goes even further. Donald Trump just announced that the politician and former football player Bo Hines will lead the new crypto advisory board. With the AI and crypto Caesar David Sachs, he aims to create an environment in which the industry around Bitcoin and co. can unfold. That's really exciting. Here we have the next per Bitcoin candidate. I'm basically just waiting every day for the news that Michael Saylor is going to join Donald Trump's personal advisory team. Michael Saylor has already presented a kind of digital asset framework for Donald Trump. And now I would actually be looking forward to, or rather, I would almost expect that Donald Trump will eventually bring Michael Saylor into his team. But apparently, there are still some, let's say, obstacles that are keeping them from being in touch. And now check this out, I actually received something, specifically a Bitcoin price forecast from DR. Marcus Grahl and Ernst Wolf. I recently reported very critically about how Bitcoin is sometimes ridiculed by the gold camp, and that there's a lot of fire directed at Bitcoin. I really respect both of them deeply because they have some great analyses. But check this out, here's the current Bitcoin price forecast that could really shock some of you. Where do you see Bitcoin a year from now? In what price range?
Well, I can't say that, so I can't tell anyone that Bitcoin will drop to zero by then. It may well be that it will be pushed up again by all the forces that are at work at the moment. But it could also be that it loses value drastically. I believe that if Bitcoin ever loses value, it will happen very suddenly and very quickly, and a lot of people will end up losing their fortunes. A stop-loss order in a wallet is already a tricky thing. Yeah, I see it the same way. We agree, yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
So, we have a very pessimistic Bitcoin price forecast here. It's actually being claimed here that Bitcoin could drop relatively quickly to $0 within a year. And what I found really interesting was that Michael Saylor was asked yesterday, or maybe the day before, what would happen to MicroStrategy if Bitcoin drops to $0. And then Michael Saylor says quite calmly, hey, no problem, I'll just buy up all the Bitcoin. So theoretically, it's just not possible. There are so many buyers. If Bitcoin were to drop to $1, everyone would just buy it back up, and that would pump Bitcoin right back up. It wouldn't even get down to the level of $1. It might drop to, I don't know, if at all. But for Bitcoin to drop to $0, that just can't happen because there are so many people. I know a lot of folks who always joke around saying, hey, I've already set my limit order at $10, at $100, whatever. So even if Bitcoin were to drop, the orders would kick in immediately. So in the end, this is just a very negative view on Bitcoin, where you can also tell, okay, hey, these guys are not really convinced about Bitcoin. In my reaction video, which I've linked for you below, I also touched on that. They basically repeated their reasons here that it has no value, that it's a Trojan horse to monitor people, a tool to introduce CBDCs. Ernst Wolf claims Bitcoin is fiat money, as it lacks value and backing. Bitcoin can be created out of nothing. Bitcoin wasn't invented by a professor. Nobody really knows who invented it. He claims intelligence agencies invented it, or it wouldn't have gained traction so fast. So, Bitcoin wasn't invented by a professor. Nobody really knows who invented it. Then, on the other hand, he says it was invented by intelligence agencies, because otherwise Bitcoin would have never gained traction so quickly. But Bitcoin did not become popular quickly. Rather, Bitcoin grew very slowly. Satoshi even warned at the beginning about Bitcoin growing too quickly. I don't know what's going on with the gold folks right now, but it seems like they really have no interest in Bitcoin. I mean, I can kind of understand it because Bitcoin might have some advantages over gold, but in the end, we really should focus on not trying to tear each other's assets down or badmouth them, because gold is an alternative form of money, and Bitcoin is also an alternative form of money. Let the free market decide what prevails here. In the end, it's not Bitcoin or gold that's the problem. Central banks are really the problem, and any alternative, even if it's something else, if people come up with any other idea, that's all helpful. But what's not helpful is that people are pitting the gold and Bitcoin camps against each other, while on the other hand, forgetting who the real enemy is, and that's the central banks. If you want to buy Bitcoin, I'll drop a link for you below to 21 Bitcoin, where you can easily and securely buy Bitcoin. 2001 is an absolute recommendation. You can set up savings plans, and you can also transfer directly to the hardware wallet. I'll also drop a link for you to a Trezor hardware wallet, which might be the best hardware wallet out there. Super easy, also suitable for beginners. You can protect yourself from hackers, you can protect yourself from attacks, and you can also store your Bitcoin in self-custody, so you don't have to rely on a platform or an exchange or anything like that. Awesome. What I wanted to show you is that I was just out hunting and looking for Morina here in El Salvador. Look what I found here. This is actually a Morina leaf, and I'm gonna eat it tonight because it's really, really awesome, this Morina. It's already pretty expensive in Germany when you buy that stuff. In El Salvador, it just grows wild in nature. Super crazy. Found a Morina tree, chased all around the city, and now here I am. Bam! Found the Morina. Look, these are the leaves here. This is Morina. Let's fucking go. And now I'm picking everything here. Let me know what you think about the current movements. Catch you later. Peace out.